Welcome to this edition of Sidebar. I'm Eric Berman. I'm the Communications Director here at the Massachusetts Association of Realtors, and I'm joined today by Mike McDonough. Mike is the General Counsel and Government Affairs Director here at MAR. Thanks for joining me today.
Thanks, Eric.
Okay, we're going to be talking about the Real Estate Settlement Procedure Act and Truth in Lending Act changes. They're happening on August 1st, 2015. So what are these changes? What are the goals of these changes? Why are they happening?
Absolutely. These changes date back about 10 years, and as a result of the housing collapse and subsequent recovery, the federal government put in place a new set of regulations as a result of the Dodd-Frank bill, which you probably heard about. The new changes will impact closings and will go into effect on August 1st. The intent here is to create more transparency for buyers and more information that buyers will obtain in a timely fashion and to avoid confusion related to the closing. So there's going to be a lot of new changes that brokers are going to need to be familiar with by August 1st.
Okay, so what are some of these changes?
I would break them down into two categories. We're going to have a couple of new forms, and we're also going to see changes to deadlines and procedures directly impacting the closing.
Okay, so I know part of this has to do with some forms. So what are these new forms?
The first form is going to be called the loan estimate. And this form is going to replace what we've known as the good faith estimate and the truth in lending statement. And this form is going to be required to be provided by a lender within 3 days of a buyer making an application for a loan. And the second document is called the closing disclosure, and that document is going to replace the form that we're all familiar with and have been for the last 30, 40 years, and that is the HUD-1 settlement form. It's going to be similar in a lot of ways and will provide the same type of information to the buyer and the seller at closing, but it's going to be a new form with a new name, and it's going to be provided at least 3 days prior to the closing. So
what happens if, I know now there can be changes right at the closing table. Is that going to be able to happen now?
That's going to be one of the things that the brokerage community is going to need to be aware of, because as a whole, these regulations are going to be impacting mostly lenders and banks and closing attorneys. But as far as brokers are concerned, you're going to need to be aware of some changes that could happen at closing. And if there's an adjustment that needs to be made, it could, in some instances, delay the closing. And sometimes that could be complicated because now you have to look at the purchase and sale agreement and see what the rights of the parties are. And so at MAR, we're going to be looking at our forms to make sure that they are up to date and comply with the new requirements. And so these are some of the things that brokers need to be thinking about as we lead up to August 1st.
Okay, now with that date in mind, what happens if I'm involved with a transaction that bridges that date, where we're right in the middle of it and now it's August 1st?
Right. So if a transaction is happening right around that time, it's really going to depend upon when the buyer made their loan application. So if they've made their application before August 1st, then the current rules will apply. If, on the other hand, they've made their application on or after August 1st, then the new rules will apply. The new documents will be in place, and the lenders will be required to use those documents and provide them within the new time frames under the new rules.
Okay, so my last question, and before I say that, the May-June issue of Bay State Realtor magazine features an article by Mike McDonough here on RESPA, so please check that out. But Mike, my final question is, where can members go in addition to Bay State Realtor for more information?
Well, I know a lot of our local associations are hosting continuing education programs and other programs on this very topic. We at MAR are also doing a webinar with an expert in this area on June 24th. And we have a whole host of information on our website as well as on NAR's website, which is realtor.org/RESPA.
Okay, great. Well, that's all I have today. Thank you again for joining me today, and we'll see you next time on the Sidebar.